Welcome, I'm Matt from Moderated by Matt. I'm so excited here to talk about Welcome to Wrexham and the season 4 finale, Do a Wrexham. So please welcome the true Wrexham player of the season, Emmy-nominated editor Asher Glaser.
Thank you. Thank you. Very sweet.
All right, no pressure, but I did talk to Premier League today, and they said Wrexham will only get promoted depending on how well you do the Q&A.
Yeah.
So
there's
just
a lot of pressure on this.
So no pressure, because we know that the fans don't take it that seriously. So whether they get promoted. All right, so let's go back to the early days.
Okay.
What was it initially about Welcome to Wrexham that made you want to come on board?
I mean, why wouldn't I? It's such an amazing program. It covers so much. It's got action, heart, empathy, humor. It really suits what I care about in storytelling. And it was already an amazing program before I stepped foot in the Bay. So I was just really fortunate enough to be asked, to be honest. And it's been like one of the highlights of my career working on the show.
So let's talk about some editing room dynamics so
Sure.
the audience understand how it works. How does an editing team collaborate so you're all not just a lonely person sitting alone in a solitary bay, which often can be the case for other forms of editing?
Yeah, I call it the ghost ship, is what it usually is. It's like just these random people that I see digitally, and then they disappear. We have a really unique dynamic with the show where we work as a group. We have 3 times a week, we have story meetings, which everyone from the whole show is on. The assistants, the execs, everybody's on. And we talk about the whole arc of the season. We talk about what's happening in episode 6 and episode 1, everything in between. So the whole team is on the same page of what we're trying to do with the whole season.
That must be really helpful. Like, for example, if you just said, hey, something is wrong in episode 3, we're not setting it up properly. Mm-hmm. That must be a great collaboration. You can really find things that are going wrong together instead of figuring it up on your own.
And things that are going right.
Yeah.
We really get to work collaboratively, and it really pays off. We need it because the show has got so many moving parts. It's kind of like a chessboard where we're constantly moving one scene over here, then one scene over here, then okay, no, let's move this over here and move this. Like there's a lot to be aware of, and it's very, very beneficial for everyone that we all know what's going on.
It's interesting, you said that sometimes when it works, when I teach editing students, sometimes the biggest mistake is they don't realize something is working. Mm. And that's why it's really good to have a collaboration. We can say, no, keep that. Because it could be a mistake, you might cut it. You're not sure. Is that something where you can kind of keep this, make sure you don't lose this?
Oh, for
or
sure.
Fight for it. Like you might have, we cannot cut this from the show.
Yeah, there's that too, where there's some story or some piece that is really important to someone, maybe, or to the editor, or to who, and wanting to make sure it stays in because we have so much that we can't show. We have, for every episode, we have 3 times that of what we don't show. We have so much content and so many stories. It's, I've worked on so many things that just didn't make it in because it didn't fit.
So literally, the kill your babies theory applies to you, where sometimes you really have to do it, even though it's a beautiful shot or scene, just doesn't work for the story.
Yeah, it's rough. It's rough when the piece that you really care about or you really love just gets taken out, or you know what, this works better in a different episode. So,
but all right. So Welcome to Wrexham is high octane nonfiction television, but it's really very character driven than I've seen before, and narrative storytelling all rolled into one.
Yeah.
When you sit down and edit, how do you approach blending all these elements together?
It's really great. I mean, it is a balancing act. We're always working on the balance between the characters, the townspeople, the managers or the players, and the games. You know, the games and the structure of the season is what kind of is the engine of the show. but then there's all these other parts to it, and it's kind of always a balancing act of what do we want to focus on, and then in regards to the games, if we're focusing on a certain player, we want to line that up so that the game that he scores the goal on is the episode where we're going to focus on him, or her, because we do the women's league, we also do youth league. Now this last season we did wheelchair, what's called power chair league.
Yeah, and I love that part.
That was really fun to work on.
Yeah. So let's dive into the episode.
Sure.
You mentioned before, how did you go about taming hundreds of hours of raw, unstructured footage and build into an Emmy-nominated narrative arc?
It's kind of the beast of the show. Like, we have just an immense amount of content to go through. Just a game takes about a week to go through because there's so many cameras, there's so many, and what story do we want to tell within that game? It takes a team, and we have to just do a lot of talking and thinking about what do we want to focus on, what's the theme of this episode, what's the theme of the season, and what do we have to drill down on, and just focus on that. And we all get different pieces. I've done games, I've done the story, I've done the townsperson or townspeople, I've done the players. It's really about how do we want to tell the story.
That's interesting. So how do you go about tracking multiple character arcs for the community, which really keeps the show grounded, I think?
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's really a balancing act, and also we have an amazing team overseas who's scouting and talking to people. We have the benefit of getting some really great people to focus on. In this season finale of that we're nominated for, we have the kid named Archie White, where we have just a great team out there to be able to scout and get a hold of them, and then just trying to give them the best light that they can get. I mean, I try to approach it with love and show them as if they were my family, like my brother or sister.
And I like that in the opening, because the opening has the great part of the townspeople really excited, Wrexham, Wrexham, Wrexham. But as we know, sports fans are also very pessimistic that everything's going to collapse. How in editing does one balance between hope and despair, especially in sports?
Well, that was kind of a trademark of this team. They were historically known for, the term "do a Wrexham" usually means not winning when it's most important, and we've always had this like great passion, but also just the reality of them not getting where they need to be, and it's just kind of in the mix for this team that there's always immense passion, but also just huge doubt if they can do it at all, if they can pull it off, or are they going to mess it up, or are they going to fall off. Luckily, like, we've had just some magical stories and magical games that have transpired where they just really have pulled it off, and they've kind of transformed what that term is for the "do a Wrexham" is now we're trying to make it be more of a positive.
It's almost like for the baseball fans, the Boston Red Sox for so many years before they finally won in 2004. I have Red Sox friends.
Totally.
And even now, they're still pessimistic.
Yeah.
Even though they've won, it's kind of fun. But that's what sports is. Sports is passion, though. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a lot of it.
There's a great line from Ryan Reynolds, how effing stressful is that the Wrexham's on the verge of making history. Brilliant. Generally, when you're, what is the process of shifting tone when to use Ryan and Rob's humor, but you don't want to overshadow the emotional stakes? So when did you decide when you needed to infuse a joke from Ryan, for example?
Well, luckily the show's benefited by having Ryan and Rob on there. I mean, they're kind of a gift to the show. The fact, there already is the stakes and the weight of the importance of winning and losing, and there's just all these different built-in tensions with that. And the fact that Ryan can be there and, you know, lay down a really appropriate, humorous, insightful joke is always kind of a gift. It's never, we never really have too much of him. As far as the one when I've been involved with it, it's we don't overuse them at all, but we're just lucky to have him, and he really, I don't know, he's really insightful, and his jokes are really on point in regards to bringing levity to a really tense situation.
So it must be hard sometimes when you have to cut it because you know you can't let him overshadow because he could take over, you know, do an old Deadpool thing for an hour and it'd be hysterical, but you didn't want to, it would ruin, it would take away from the show.
Luckily, he's not someone who's trying to force his presence down our throats. He's very much, you know, a collaborative presence. Like he's just not trying to be self-promoting in that way, and so it's nice that he can be there at all. The fact that he even shows up, you know, he travels across the country to be a part of it.
That's great.
So when he's there, we want to try to grab it, but I don't think we really worry too much about overusing because we don't. Again, it's all like this kind of fine-tuned balancing act.
So then, because you're talking about him, so then it's not true that he actually doesn't have comic timing, but you always make him through editing. You make him funny, that he's actually not funny. You're just being sweet to him now, but it's really you
he's really
are
boring.
the ones that, you know, you have to sit through like hundreds of hours of footage to get him.
It's like a monologue. He just doesn't stop. And no, it's very much the opposite.
Well, it sounds like the hard thing is when you have to cut him. Like you realize you just can't do it, you know, it doesn't work for the show.
I mean, there are some times where it's about placement too, where like it doesn't quite fit right here. It needs to be at a point where we need some comical, some levity, or we need some insight from him because he's a co-owner.
Right.
He's more than just there for jokes.
But what I like is you have a joke like that, but then you do have to show reality and truth, emotional truth. I was struck by the academy scene where we see one player's dreams get crushed in a very sympathetic way because the coaches were great, and then one, make it. How do you balance, like when you're editing something like that, how do you balance the personal stories and tragedies of the players, but you know, it's also sports?
Yeah. I was fortunate to work on the episode where one of the player that makes it through, I did his backstory and his bio, and again, it's just approaching it with care and concern, and I approach it as if this is my cousin or brother, and I really want to show them in the best light I can, but at the same time, a lot of these kids, or all of the kids on that youth team, their life since they're this big is football, or below here, and that's the lens that they see life in. And so that scene that you're talking about, when one of them doesn't make it, like he's been living his whole life up to that point has only been, or mostly been, football, and to see that scene where they aren't able to take him, it's crushing, but it's also the reality. And we didn't want to shy away from, we didn't want to make it sugarcoat it. We just wanted to show the reality of it, or the truth of the pain of not getting to do the thing you love.
I like that scene a lot tonally because we've seen other shows where, like American Idol would mock them. I like it where there was compassion.
Oh,
where
yeah.
the coaches and everybody knew what it meant because they were kids too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and that's my favorite part of the show, where it's never, there's no meanness in it.
Yeah.
You know, it's complete empathy, but you have to make the tough call. The kid wasn't right.
Yeah, there's a lot of respect for everyone everyone across the board. And I also love that the coaches were really compassionate and considerate. You can see that it's really, really hard for them to do this and say this, but they have to. and it's just one of the things that's just really nice to get to cover these like small moments that we don't see so much of. Just the reaction of the kid who doesn't get to be on the team. It's rough.
It's horrible, but we all face that as
Yeah.
kids. We always wanted to play sports or do something, or musicians or editors, and sometimes it's just not right.
Yeah.
And letting that go is difficult. All right, so we have drama, but I like the sequence when Humphrey Kerr training for the marathon to raise money for a foundation. Again, grounded in reality, raising money for a worthy cause. There's a great line about, if he was chased by a dog with a gun, he might be able to, stop him, but couldn't. What goes into a comedic sequence like that? Because that was just pure fun.
Yeah, that one was really a seasonal arc. We knew going into it that he committed to doing this marathon for charity, that he lost a bet, that he had to do it. And we kind of had a curious position of how are we going to cover this? Because it's something that lasts the whole season. He's training, and the race doesn't happen till far, or the marathon doesn't happen till deep into the season. And I think the last episode is when we cap it. So we had to figure out how are we going to do something that's kind of boring, running a marathon, and how are we going to? It was kind of a creative question of like how are we going to handle this, and so we kind of had to pick our spots throughout the season where we do a little update on it or a progression of it. And luckily, Humphrey is just a really funny guy. He's very talented and intelligent, and so he's able to give a perspective. And he's not an athlete, and we get to see the comedic part is him just resisting it so much and hating it so much. And again, it's about placement, about where do we put this to make the comedic element pay off the most.
Well, this is what comes into when you mentioned before about the collaboration, because you have to decide throughout the whole, not just one episode.
Yeah, the whole season.
And if you haven't gone to it enough, people will forget it.
Won't know
but if you
what
want
it
to do
is.
too much, it's overshadowing. So is that one of the things we editors have to decide?
It was a delicate
episode
balance.
Yeah.
Like his stuff was in this episode, then it was taken out, then it was in this episode, and everyone was kind of like a hot potato. Like, no, you take it. Now we'll take it over here, and we'll put it over here, and then the last episode was the perfect spot for it to cap it. But yeah, it was a lot of deliberation of where are we putting this random marathon in the world of this show that we're doing.
But that transition from comedy, which I think you do a great job going from comedy to drama, and make it seamless. Archie White, you mentioned before, the kid battling cancer. The team was so moved by him, inspired by him. We're inspired by him. We see how much it means to him to be able to visit the players and Rob and meet Ryan. What went into that sequence where this is really the emotional heart of the whole episode to me was that Archie.
Well, first of all, the kid is freaking amazing. His outlook and he's just so sweet. Like I got to work on the first scene of him when Paul Mullen visits him in the hospital, and you just watch it and you're just touched. Like this kid, he's bald, no hair, battling cancer, and he's just so happy and fun and carefree, and he's just being like a fun kid in this intensive care unit. It was really special. So we didn't know what his health status was going to be for that final season, or for that final game. The whole season leading up to it, like I did a scene with him early on, but then we're like, is he going to be able to do it? Is he going to be able to go outside? Is he going to be able to? It was really touch and go. Like, yeah, we didn't know until maybe a day or two before shooting that he was like. We kept checking in. And then his mom was like, "No, we can't do it. No, we can't do it. No." And then it just kind of opened up where he's finally healthy enough to do a tour and go to the final game. It was kind of like a storm passing where he had an opening in his health where we could bring him in. And that was also just was what helped make it so touching that he finally could. And I don't know, like the kid's just irresistible. Like you can't see him and not want to give him a big hug.
There's a shot, I don't remember exactly where in the episode, but there's a shot or a moment where you can see how much it means to the mom. Like all she's been dealing with heartache and taking care of her kid, and just see how happy he is, like being on the field. And it was actually one of the more triumphs for the mother too. I just love that moment where she was like, I can't believe how happy, like this is when.
You know, it was one of those amazing things that you can't plan for, but when they score a goal and when they're in the final match and they finally, you know, kick the door open and start getting momentum, there's just an amazing shot of him just like just pumping his fist, just being so happy, so proud, and you could see, you just kind of also had empathy for the mom too. You're like, oh my God, he finally gets to have happiness. He gets to have like this moment of complete, you know, joy with it, and it was, you know, contagious. It affected everybody that was around him.
Yeah. I remember Ryan Reynolds' expression in the box. It was just like he was, you know, because he's a parent, he understands the pain, like what it means if your child was like that.
And he you know, in the scene that I worked on, we did a scene where he talks to Ryan through FaceTime, and he gets to have a relationship with this kid too, which was to see that kid's reaction when he first gets a call or gets a video call from Ryan. He can't believe it. He's like, what? No, what? No, you? You know, it was a complete surprise to him, and he was, you know, he asked. He of course wanted to know when the next Deadpool movie was.
Of course, you know, as I do. You know, all right. So you have now we're switching. I found there was this interesting sequence where the players were stressing about another game, Leighton versus Wickham, not their own game. How does an editor do you have to create drama out of spectators, not even their own game?
Yeah. It's one of those things in sports, or at least in the EFL, where there's this period where you're very, very late in the season, where everyone's kind of jockeying to be like above the line to get into promotion. If you get above, like if you're in the top 2 spots, you automatically get promoted. If you're in the spots 3 through 6, you're in playoffs. So I think I have that right, approximately, give or take. And so to get into those spots, all of these teams that are in right close to that level are all pivotal. They're all trying to like get ahead of each other. And what that means is when they're not playing games, they're watching the other teams to see if they win or lose. That means who are we going to be playing against, or how many points do I have to beat them by? It breaks down to all these crazy details. So it's actually incredibly important at the very end who's playing what, when, where, and how. And that was also a challenge.
Well, it's not very visual.
Right. Right. Yeah. It's statistics.
Yeah.
It's like you're talking boring baseball statistics. Yeah. And so how do we make this incredibly kind of almost tedious mathematical problem engaging? Yeah. And what we found was, you know, there was these 2 matches right before our final one where whoever won or lost was pivotal for where we were. It made our spots change too. So what we found was just all of the investment in those games was what we wanted to show, was everybody in the town being glued to the screen and like rooting for teams they hated so that they would beat this other team that they could not play against us, you know. And it was a really cool thing to work on because it's something that's kind of almost, you look at it on the surface and say it's kind of like a throwaway thing, but it was actually really important for how and where and when we finished. So I worked on that scene where it was just really about, the townspeople and like everyone just being hunkered in and glued to the screen, and including Ryan. Yeah. And he was in there completely glued to the screen, invested as well. And that was really fun to watch him just turn into a complete fan, you know.
I love the line, give those boys a night-night juice. It was one of my favorite jokes from Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah.
But it sets up great comedy, of course, Ryan joke, but a moment later, now we're back to real drama,
Yeah.
which I liked, the final game. What was the pressure of setting up with the whole sequence, the Charlton, the big game?
Yeah, that was, I got to work on that, and that was really fun. I looked at the footage of the lead up to that game, meaning like you're talking about the final game. It's like the playoff, essentially kind of like the town Super Bowl, sort of.
Because they win, just so the audience, if they win, they're in. They get promoted.
Yes.
So it doesn't matter what happens, they're in.
Yeah. And it was a home game.
Yeah. Even better.
So I looked at that footage and I was just like, holy shit. Like it was kind of wilder than I even thought it could be. It feels like there were legions of people, not just the town. It felt like the whole country showed up at this town. There was parades, there was like kids doing like crazy sparklers and fog, and it was really cinematic. So I just wanted to kind of capture the scope of what this meant to everyone there. And I hadn't seen anything quite like it, where everyone's got their face painted or has their shirt on or shirt off or a jersey, flags, smoke, and there was just kind of this kind of thematic like march towards that kind of final culmination moment where I just wanted it to kind of have a momentum and build and build and build to the final intense game.
Now, I did love the whole Rob, talking about whether he talks to the team and the golf legend. How did you? And then it was very funny when they bleeped out the name, but we all know who he is, the golf legend. How did you approach that? Where you have a very dramatic setup, but a comedic payoff when he does a whole joke about the golf legend.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of just goes in the tone with the show, with us having these kind of heavy, weighty moments, but then these kind of brief moments of levity. I mean, that's the gift of having, like, you got Rob Mack, who's got a 20-year history of a show in comedy. Yeah. You've got Ryan Reynolds, who's got a huge history of comedy. So, like, they know how it works. They know how comedy works and how to create a humorous, funny moment. So that was all on Rob. We just kind of captured what Rob was doing, what he set up, and luckily that it worked very well with that.
I did love, but the heart of it is the brilliant sequence of having the players close their eyes, remembering what it's like to play as a kid. So you're intercutting the footage of them joy as a kid and the game. What was it went into that choice of mixing the childhood video with the actual game footage?
Yeah, it was really a beautiful moment. I mean, I think that's like, for the whole season or the whole episode, that moment is really the kind of standout moment of the show. And it started with Rob giving that speech, and then Rob saying, hey, I want to get some childhood videos from these kids. I'm going to put that in. And it was based off of that speech he gave about picturing you playing as a kid. And then we handed it off to the editor who was in charge of that segment, and he was very protective of it and and he just kind of went to work. And there was many drafts of it. They finally got to it, but the first cut of that scene was very similar to what you're seeing now. But it was just this kind of beautiful weaving of the speech, the game, the childhood memories. It just kind of just beautifully wove together by this like amazing epic performance from the team doing these, they had, like, there's this one goal from Sam Smith, this scissor kick.
Yeah.
I mean, he looks like this crazy soccer ninja doing like almost like a bicycle kick. It was just really poetic, and I didn't do that section. I was part of the team who worked on the episode, but it was really beautiful to see it evolve and see what it becomes.
It also pays off your academy scene earlier where you see one kid make it and one kid doesn't. Now it all ties together. It straightens that scene a lot too. Just now you understand what it means for a kid playing soccer.
Oh yeah, yeah. It was one of those rare moments where you see in real time like the whole town's dreams come true. It was really wild. There was just the exuberation and celebration, and just there was all this previous doubt in the town,
Of course.
if we can do it, and to see that yes we can and yes we did, it was really just. It was just kind of just watching this giant or this raw giant celebration where everyone rushes the field.
Yeah, what was your reaction when you got to see that shot of the total,
I mean,
excitement?
it's something you see like out of movies. It's like as if it was constructed almost. Like you just see the whole town or the whole crowd rush the field and party on the field. Yeah. It was pretty. I mean, you just see this. From the back, you see, or from the wide up top, you see this whole, thousands of people rush the field. It was awesome.
But you've been setting that up for 4 years, though. You've been
Yeah.
setting up that, if you wanted it narratively, that
Yeah.
whole moment, because
Yeah.
it's been building. That's why that moment matters, because we've seen 4 years of heartache
Yeah.
from the fans.
Yeah, I mean, you see from season 1, they almost got taken out of existence. The team almost dissolves, and that's where we start the series with them really being in the basement and kind of the ghosts of a previous team, or their stadium is a mess. It was kind of just been a complete transformation from the first season all the way up to this insane, amazing back-to-back-to-back promotion explosion and of just celebration.
How are the actual townspeople, though, with the crew? Like, how do they feel about the show? We see well on air when they're talking, but how do they actually feel about this connection?
I think like it's pretty genuine. We get to have a lot of really good connections with folks in this small town. It's really like, if you go to Wrexham when they're not playing or when they're not on this kind of championship run, it's a small working town. It's not fancy, and it's really touching that we get to bring some life, or we get to show some of these folks who had never even been in front of a camera outside of a selfie, that we get to put some attention on who they are as people.
And respect. That's one thing.
Oh, yeah.
The total respect. Because traditionally, a lot of these films could mock the fans, which is a trap they do, a trope I know is in narrative films. You guys never do that.
I don't even understand that. I don't know why you would.
I do like the fact that, so you had this great moment, but we're also in the sports world. You immediately cut to the sportscaster saying, "Oh, you'll never get promoted to the Premier." So was that part of it? We have to go back to the reality. What's next?
It was not just that. It was like, you guys are going to get destroyed in this next league. Like, okay, so now you're in the next league. You're going to get killed. You're going to get destroyed. And that was what this previous season, or season 5, was about, was how to navigate this incredibly intense league that is incredibly talented and fast-paced. One of the hardest leagues in all of football. How do we survive in that? How do we thrive in that? And then, amazingly, we did so well this last season. Like we didn't make the playoffs. We got like just right under the line. Like,
but you beat expectations, though. Like
absolutely,
yeah.
Absolutely.
Which has been every season. You beat the Wrexham team has always beat expectations.
Yeah. There's always been. Yeah, from the very beginning when Rob and Ryan took over, it was nothing but skepticism. And there's still there's something we show in the series where all the other towns and all the other teams are they're not nice.
Yeah, no, exactly. They're not Wrexham.
Yeah, they have a lot of things to say about, they call it Hollywood FC and Disney FC.
How fun was, so how did you guys land on the last shot of Ryan and Rob playfully battling for the trophy? Was that always the plan, or?
Again, it's just like the gift of having these really talented, funny people as anchors in the show. That just was not planned. It was just like they were just joking around, and then we're like, oh, hey, let's shoot that. And we did, and it was not something that was meant to be anything really huge or special, but it was a really nice way to cap the episode.
So, I have a lot of students that watch, and I'm curious, it doesn't have to be this episode, it could be any of your other episodes. What are you most proud of editing-wise? Something that maybe was really hard to pull off, but something you'd want the students to take a look at. It's like, well, this is a good lesson in editing.
Oh, there was a couple moments. I mean, for this show, there was, in this last season 5, I got to work on the scene, or the focus on the story of the kid who was in the power chair league, and focus on him. And similar to Archie White, like, he's also this really dynamic, really fun, special kid. And I just wanted to let him kind of guide the story and honor him as much as I could. And I'm really proud of that sequence where we focus on him and learn about who he is. It's just like, again, he's just has a really contagious, lovely spirit. So there was that of just kind of letting him lead it and wanting to almost step back and focus on what makes this kid so special. As far as technically, there was the previous scene to the lead up, or to that Charlton match, the lead up to it when they played Blackpool, where that was a tough scene. I mean, a tough and really fun scene, because again, it's in this jockeying period, and at that period, they've just come off 2 draws. They weren't doing really well. They were kind of written off almost, and it was about like turning the page from will they, won't they, are they, to them actually winning that game and starting to create momentum to lead into this big match at the end. That was something that was really fun and to put together, because there was this, like, James McLean has this amazing kick in it that the whole place erupts, and it was just cool to see a team go from not quite being have their footing to turning the corner and getting the winning back and having that momentum to go on.
Cool. I have a question about your origin story.
Okay.
When did you know you wanted to be an editor?
Oh my gosh. I don't fit the atypical editor mold, generally speaking. My background's in theater and performance and comedy, and I got into editing from editing my own shorts, and I hired editors that I spent a lot of time in the Bay with them, and started just really liking the process. And it was kind of almost out of necessity of like, I want to stop hiring all these editors. I want to do it. So I slowly started to learn myself, and then I started to shoot other people or edit other people's stuff. I also shot stuff too, and kind of started to build that way. And then I made something that kind of got a little bit of viral thing, and I showed it to a friend of mine, and he said, well, come work for us. And it just kind of started growing that way. It's not something I went to school to learn how to edit, or, I learned writing, directing, performance, and all of that actually influences how I edit. Knowing what comedic timing is, knowing response, knowing seeing something special happen, and how to respond to that, to create the most amount of, to elicit the most amount of emotion and feeling out of the audience.
Do you recommend that for students? Actually exploring other parts of the filmmaking world.
Absolutely.
Not just, even if you really want to be an editor, But you understand what it's like to be on camera.
100%.
Or behind the camera, or
100%.
directing.
I mean, not just for editing, but for directing or for writing or for other. The more sides of the coin that you get to see, the more you learn about what the medium is. You learn, basically it's learning how to tell a story and learning different ways. And I think when you're in just like learning about the technical aspect of editing, you're kind of just stuck in this narrow box. When you have the chance to look at something from a different angle, or look at something from, from a writing perspective or a performance perspective, or inventing, it just kind of opens up the field more and opens up more of what you can look at. And I highly recommend it. Not a lot of people do. It's just, people fall into patterns, but I love it. It's constantly just, stretching yourself and pushing yourself out of your comfort zone too. And you kind of end up surprising yourself, like, oh, I didn't think of this, or oh, I wouldn't have thought of this if I didn't, really push myself over here. So it's really beneficial, I feel.
Well, sadly, it's all the time we have.
Okay.
I really appreciate you opening up your editing soul.
Oh my gosh.
To our voters and students online. And thanks so much, and good luck at the end.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.